I've been using my 9 to 5 as a strategic asset, and I don't think many women are thinking about their 9 to 5s in this specific way because for many of us, we have our identities tied to our 9 to 5s, or our 9 to 5s are things that we're trying to escape. And I know because I've been in both places. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video, specifically because last week I had 3 videos where I was talking about work and career, and more specifically, the term that I introduced as corporate brain rot. How we are moving through these systems in these places and we haven't been checking in with ourselves. We're just moving in autopilot and we haven't come to this place to realize, is this still the life that we want to live? And I got comments on those videos where this idea that I talked about in those videos around using my 9 to 5 as a strategic asset really piqued people's curiosity. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit more in detail today. And I didn't have this language before. I experienced career burnout in my healthcare leadership job. I left that role. I took nearly a 1-year sabbatical, and I knew I had to be different when I was ready to go back into corporate America. And one of those pieces, I talk about all the things that I did differently in other videos. So if you're interested, just look at the playlist for these 100 days that I'm doing here on YouTube and showing up every single day. Just click that playlist to check out some of my other videos. But I knew I had to be different when I came back to corporate America. And one of those ways that I was going to be different and move differently in order to build the life and the type of work that I desire was using my 9 to 5 as a strategic asset. And I remember when I was writing my book, now, let's just say my book came out last year, so writing the book took about 10 months. So let's just say almost 2 years ago, where my creative coach introduced this idea to me because I was sharing with her some misalignment that I was starting to feel that was starting to brew. Again, it wasn't anything major yet, but I was just so self-aware being back in corporate America that I was very aware when things started to feel different and no longer was moving me in the direction that I wanted to go. And she just kind of framed it as, any of us is rarely in positions where we can just get out of something just like that. So in the meantime, while I am pivoting and building something of my own, just try to think of it. She was like, just try to think of your 9 to 5 as how did she say it? I'm trying to think of the exact way she said it. She said, I'm going to paraphrase, but she said something along the lines of using your 9 to 5 to fund your dream life. She said something along those lines. And it stayed with me, but in the same time, I kind of let it go in one ear and out the other, if I'm honest. But once I got clear that, yes, there's some misalignment here and I need to work on my pivot, I'm like, I'm going to use this as a strategic asset. How can this job, while I'm here now, move me towards the life I desire and the type of work that I desire? So I'm just going to break that down in a few different ways and how I look at that. And just meaning that I'm using this job intentionally to support the life that I'm building instead of letting it take away from me. Because we know when we're often in places that we don't want to be, or it's not terrible, we can just get wrapped up in that. And again, I know because I was there before in my corporate leadership job, but I ended up leaving that role due to burnout. I wasn't as aware then as I am now. So I just let things just pile up. And ultimately my health and wellness majorly suffered and I burnt out. But how I got to this place of using my 9 to 5 as a strategic asset is number one, and this around identity. During my sabbatical, I took a lot of time to heal, to get crystal clear on how I wanted to live and work and becoming the woman that I wanted to be. And the woman that I was when I was in my corporate leadership job, I knew that I could not be her again. So what I had to do was, and a lot of this took like thinking back to my childhood and being so ambitious and an ambitious young adult and like all the things that I've been talking about over on this 100-day journey, and just really get into the root of things. And what I had done was like tied my identity and like my worth to like my job. So I had to do a lot of work personally because it was so deep rooted to untangle that. I removed who I was, my worth from this job. Like that was no longer like a combo. I am Erica and this is what I do. Like I had to really untie my value from a job. And I think that's really difficult for a lot of women in particular, and especially women of color, Black women, because we're just, I don't know, I feel like raised and groomed sometimes to be that way. And because when your identity is tied to your job, you really don't see that clearly. So I had to do a lot of work for myself personally. It might not be difficult for you, but I had to untie my identity from my job. It is now, hey, I'm Erica. And this is the work that I do. It's not together. The second thing I had to do was I had to stop being in the spirit or the posture of the position of like overextending myself. And if you're watching this video, I'm probably sure that resonates with you and you can relate to just the idea of just overextending yourself, always raising your hand to take on more, do something else. Like I completely stopped that. I had to really get clear on what my values were, and coming back into corporate America, because my health and wellness had suffered so much in my career burnout. I knew that when I came back, my health and wellness, top priorities, and I'm never going to extend myself in a way that puts my health and wellness at risk. And to me, that happens when you continue to overextend yourself, to overextend your capacity to take on more and more and more, and not getting any relief. Now, again, I'm not saying like you can't do a little extra here or there, but it's that chronicness, it's that consistency of doing so. And then you're wiped out, exhausted, worn out, beat up, and nobody cares. And trust me, no one would care. So that's what I had. That's the second thing I had to do. I just had to really honor my capacity in the work that I do, and to really not let anything come in between that. And I also want to make it very clear when I'm talking about this particular step in honoring your capacity. When you're in your 9 to 5, I'm not saying do the bare minimum. I'm saying if you're watching this video, you probably identify as ambitious, driven, responsible, capable, all of the things. So you're not lazy, you're not a bum, you're not a slacker, you're not any of those things. So this isn't about like doing a half job or being lazy. You're doing your job well. You're doing your 9 to 5 well. I exceed expectations in my 9 to 5. It's just letting it stop there. Like you're doing your job well, and that's it, and that's all. Like not continuing to take on more. That was number 2. And step 3 was, this is how the strategic part really comes in when I say using my 9 to 5 as a strategic asset, is really using the job intentionally. So I'm very intentional about how my 9 to 5 is supporting the life that I am building for myself. And that's the work I want to do and the life that I'm building. So I'm building a business here. And I'm building a very intentional life, which I've been building for the last 3 years. And every year just gets better and better. But I align the things in my 9 to 5 intentionally, strategically to move my life forward. So Erica, what are you talking about? So for me, that looks like in my 9 to 5, I make a certain salary. Of course, I don't make the 6-figure salary that I did when I was in my corporate leadership career, but I make a nice salary. I used my income to fund my book project last year. And if you know anything about writing a book, if you want to create a quality product, it can be expensive to do a book the right way. And I wrote every word of my book. This was even before I felt AI really was being used the way that it is used today. So I literally wrote every single word of my book, but it was expensive. But I used my 9 to 5, the money that I make from my 9 to 5 to fund my book project, what ultimately leads to my larger body of work, which is, along the business that I'm building. Also, I use my workplace benefits like my PTO. I'm in a position of, like I said, rebuilding, redesigning my life, and that includes my finances. Going from one large salary with large bonuses to the salary I make now, I don't travel because I can't afford to travel currently the way that I desire to travel. However, I still take my PTO. You hear me? That's a benefit that we get in this 9 to 5. So I take my PTO to work in my business, to work on my business. But again, I'm using that time strategically to build the life that I desire. So I'm not just working and doing the work per se, I'm using the job. Again, doing well in my career, in the job, in the 9 to 5, but I am laser focused on where I'm going, where I desire to be, and how can this 9 to 5 in this season move me to where I desire to be. And I'm just constantly checking in with myself. And that's where I introduced the concept of corporate brain rot in the previous videos, because that's the corporate brain rot. Like we're in these, making these nice salaries, or you're building, you're in comfort or perceived comfort, because we know in the times we're in now that no job is safe, no job is secure. But I'm constantly checking in with myself to see, is this job still in alignment in the work that I'm doing, in the way that I want to make an impact, in the way that I want to use my skills? But more importantly, is this job helping me move my needle forward? And if it comes to a place where it's not, then that's your answer. You hear what I'm saying? So you have to continue to check in with yourself regularly. I'm doing it bi-weekly when I get paid. Every time I get that paycheck, is this still working for me? Is this still moving me in alignment? And again, I am doing things to continue to pivot, because my ultimate desire is to be fully self-employed in my business. But in the meantime, if I am still in corporate, being a consultant or in a contracting capacity where I can just take on projects here and there for a limited period of time and then move on to the next thing. Because if your job is no longer supporting the life, I just feel like if your job isn't no longer supporting the life that you're trying to build, then what are we doing? What are you doing? That is your answer to start the pivot to whatever that is that can help you continue to move your needle forward. So like this video like all my other videos where I have these kind of topics, isn't about necessarily quitting your job today or tomorrow. I quit my healthcare leadership job because I had to. My body forced me to. And I felt like I was in a position that where I wouldn't have chose it for myself. So my body chose it for me. And I'm forever grateful for that experience, even though it was very life changing, to say the least. I just see it's I just see things differently now. And that's why I'm having these conversations, because I think it's an opportunity for more women like us who are known to get things done to start seeing things differently when it comes to our corporate careers or our 9 to 5, because your job can be a tool as well. You just have to get very, very clear on how you're using it. So if any of this resonated with you, please leave me a comment in the description below. Give this video a like. Go back and watch some of my other videos from last week. The 100-day playlist is down in the description box. And I'm Erica Prevail. I share daily conversations helping ambitious women rework their relationship with ambition, capacity, rest, and creativity. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.